installation and leveling. Shims are shipped with every Duraflex stand. These shims are used to correct for uneven surfaces and to isolate the stand from the deck surface, reducing the possibility of corrosion. Sorting and marking the shims by thickness prior to starting will make it easier to select the proper size shim during the leveling process. Place a 1/8 inch shim directly over each mounting hole. Place a log level across the shims in all directions to determine the highest anchor location. Using this highest point as a reference, place shims as needed at the other corners to bring them into level with the reference point. Reduce the number of shims where possible by replacing multiple thin shims with single thicker ones. For instance, replace 2 1/4 inch shims with 1 1/2 inch shim. Place the main support into position on the shims, with the foot wheel on the right when facing the pool. Be careful not to disturb the shims. The stand must sit on all 4 mounting points with no evident rocking. Add shims as necessary, keeping the main support as level as possible. Check for level front to back and side to side, using the tracks as your reference. Adjust shims as required until the stand is level. Make sure there is at least 1 1/8 inch shim at each anchor mounting location, so the main support is not in direct contact with the deck surface. Align the edges of the shims and center them under each leg. The slots in the shims should point toward the center of the stand. Apply a thin film of anti-seize to the first 3 or 4 threads of all mounting bolts. This step is important to prevent seizing. Install the mounting bolts with 2 washers. There are 2 sizes of washers included. The larger washer goes onto the bottom. The bolt should be of sufficient length to allow a minimum of 1/2 inch of thread engagement into the anchor. Finger tighten the mounting bolts, recheck for level, and adjust shims if necessary. Place the ladder into position on the shims. Be careful not to disturb the shims. The stand must sit on all 4 mounting points with no evident rocking. Add shims as necessary, keeping the main support as level as possible. Check for level side to side, using the hinges as your reference. Adjust shims as required until the ladder is level. Make sure there is at least 1 1/8 inch shim under each leg so the ladder is not in direct contact with the deck surface. Align the edges of the shims and center them under each leg. The slots in the shims should point toward the center of the ladder. Main support and ladder alignment. The main support and ladder must be aligned over the center line to achieve proper alignment of the diving board. A laser level is preferred for this procedure. If no laser level is available, a plumb bob and chalk line may also be used. Position the laser so the vertical beam lines up with the center line and the leading edge of the hinge plate where the label is affixed. Center the ladder by aligning the center line marked on the label with a vertical beam. If needed, the hinge plate bolts may be loosened to provide additional side-to-side movement. Using a cross pattern, tighten the bolts on the ladder. Reposition the laser along the center line so that the beam is visible on both centerline labels on the fulcrum box. Position the main support so that both centerline arrows on the fulcrum box line up with the beam. Using a cross pattern, tighten the main support mounting bolts. Using the same pattern, torque all mounting bolts to 110 foot-pounds. Verify that the main support and ladder remain level. The stand must be level front to back and side to side. It must also be aligned with the center line. The diving stand must sit solidly on the shims.